Alright, it hadn't really occurred to me to take a video of doing this until I was halfway done with the job, but today I'm working on the passenger side power window in my 1990 Dodge Ram B250 van. That's a mouthful. But anyway, I fixed the driver's side window like a year ago. And that was the same time when I also put on those snazzy Luan door panels. I've got one for this side that I made too. I took off earlier to work on this. But any of you guys out there, if you have a 90s model, late 80s, early 90s model Dodge truck or van that has power windows and they stop working, a lot of the time your windows stop working, a lot of people automatically think it's either the switch or the motor. Well, as prone to electrical problems as what these vans and Dodge trucks of the era were, the actual window motors themselves almost never go out in these things. And so what happens is it's not the window motor itself, it's the window gear. And here's the old one out of this one. And it's the gear right in the center that rides on this big old cog right here on the regulator. And so what happens is, well, let me get the new one out here. See, here's the new one. You see it's got this little triangulated shape in here. It's got these little round plastic rollers that go in each one of those corners. And of course, it gets packed full of grease. What happens to these is these little rollers disintegrate. They just turn into a bunch of messy chunks. As a matter of fact, 90% of that right there is not even just grease, that's chunks of plastic from the old ones. And so you can actually order just the gears. They're like 10 bucks as opposed to like $70 or $80 or whatever they might cost for the whole motor, and ironically enough, I'm pretty sure the motor doesn't even actually come with these. So if you ordered a new motor, you'd have to order these too separately. So if you've got an early 90s or late 80s, anywhere in that neighborhood, Dodge van or truck, and the power windows stop working, before you go to blowing a ton of money on window motors and switches and stuff, crack it open and check this out. It's not exactly the easiest job to do in the world, because you have to drill out some rivets. The regulator is held in by 4 rivets, one there, one over here, and one hiding right down here. And once those are out, it kind of comes apart, or the whole regulator starts coming down, and then you have to finagle this guy up around somewhere. Usually I get it right here where it's in this hole, where you can get in with a 3/8 socket and take out 3 bolts that holds the motor onto the regulator. And once that motor comes loose from that regulator, you better have your fingers out of the way, because that regulator is spring loaded and it will shoot down like a rocket. I almost chopped my fingers off on the driver's side when I did that over a year ago. And that's the spring that spring loads it. So what this is supposed to be, I'm assuming from the factory, is it's supposed to assist the window going up. Because before I fixed the motor, you could pull the window down by hand, and if you let go of it, it would just shoot back up again by itself, like very violently. And I've got a pretty strong theory that these springs right here are part of the reason why these wear out like they do, and it ends up breaking these, because it's having to work so hard to push the window down against that spring that it just wears them out and they finally fall apart. So I'm leaving that spring out. I left the spring out on the driver's side, and like I said, it's been well over a year ago since I fixed that window, and it works perfectly. And as far as the rivets go, I know a lot of you guys are purists, so you'd, want to fix it. You'd probably want to go get rivets to put it back in with. The way I put this one back in was I just found some short machine bolts about that long with some nuts and washers. But yeah, see, check it out. Window goes right up, window goes right down. And I left that stupid spring out of there so I don't have to worry about, getting my fingers chopped off if I ever have to worry or work on it again. And it really didn't seem necessary to have that in there. And so yeah, that's a really, really common problem with these old Dodges. And rarely ever, like I said before, rarely ever is it actually the motor itself. 95% of the time, that's the problem right there. And I don't know if it's really true or not. Obviously, the other one's in, you know, 1,000 pieces, so I can't compare what they look like. But supposedly, these are supposed to be an improved design over the original ones. So these are supposed to be a little bit stouter parts anyway. But yeah, I ordered those up, and I think it was 10 bucks a set. So 20 bucks off from, I believe it was rockauto.com. I ordered these guys, and I've been able to fix the power windows in my van. But that's pretty much all I've got. I'm sure I'll have some other obscure little job to do on this thing soon enough that I'll show you guys. But until then, give me a like and a subscribe, and feel free to leave comments.